late night gas stop. Flickering lights. A figure watching you. These true horror stories will make you rethink your next pit stop. This is Mr. H. You're listening to Masked Horror. One spark away. It was supposed to be a legendary night. Me and my boy Jared had been talking about it all week. Downtown, good music, good drinks, and maybe, just maybe, some good company. Fresh cuts, clean fits, the playlist on point. Everything was set, but first, we had to stop for gas. Jared pulled into a station just off the highway, one of those old, run-down spots that looked like it had seen better days. Flickering neon sign, cracked pavement, and just one other car in the lot. A beat-up black coupe with tinted windows. I stayed in the car, scrolling through my phone, while Jared got out to pump. That's when the girls pulled up. Two of them, solid 9s, no exaggeration, the type that makes you sit up a little straighter. Jared, always smooth, walked over to the driver's side while the gas was pumping. They started talking, laughing, giggling, the usual. I could see from the car that he was locked in. My man was grinning ear to ear, so I knew he was feeling them heavy. Here's the thing about Jared. He was a smooth talker, but sometimes he would say some off-the-wall things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Shooters shoot, as the saying goes. But whenever he gets nervous, he needs to smoke. Used to be cigarettes, but recently, he switched over to an e-cig. I saw it coming before he did. While he was mid-flirt, he kinda tensed up. He was in the zone, but he must have said something that one of the girls didn't like, and he was trying to recover. He usually did recover, I can't lie about that. But despite this setback, he was in the zone that night. But while all this was going on, the gas nozzle was still running. The girls had him distracted, and the tank started overflowing, gasoline spilling down the side of the car and pooling beneath his feet. Then, he pulled out his vape. I was already opening my mouth to yell when a tiny spark, a flash of orange, then flames. It happened so fast, a fireball erupted from the ground, igniting the spilled gas. It raced up the side of the car, licking at the fuel door like it was hungry for more. Jared stumbled back, his legs catching fire for half a second before he frantically stomped it out. The girl screamed. I almost jumped out of the car, but my mind was spinning. Then, Jared did the dumbest thing possible. Instead of running, he tried to kick the fire out. It spread. The flames stretched like long, orange fingers, creeping toward the gas pump. I swore under my breath, this was it. We were about to make the news. Then, the fire died down. No explosion, no fireball, no final destination moment. Jared froze, breathing heavy. I sat there, stunned. For a second, I thought he actually put the fire out, but then I saw him look over his shoulder, confused. I was so confused as to what was going on that we didn't realize that the gas attendant came out with a fire extinguisher after he had controlled the fire. The gas station attendant was glaring at us. His hand pushed the big, red emergency shutoff switch. He had just saved our lives. He stomped outside, shaking his head. Dumbass kid, he muttered, before blasting the remaining flames with a fire extinguisher. Jared was still trying to play it cool. Damn, that was crazy, huh? He said, brushing soot off his jeans. And the worst part, the girls were impressed. We left the station after that. My heart was still racing, but Jared, he was just laughing it off. We met up with the girls later that night. They kept bringing it up, talking about how chill Jared was, how he handled the fire like a pro. I should have been relieved. We got lucky. We shouldn't have made it out of that. But something kept bugging me. When we pulled in, there had been one other car sitting off to the side. That black coupe. I never saw anyone get out of it. Even when everything was going down, the fire, the screaming, the gas station attendant running out, the driver never moved. Hopefully he was okay. It's a story I'll never forget, and we tell it often, but it's something that still weighs on my mind. Wrong place, wrong time. It was just supposed to be a quick stop. I was driving home late, later than I should have been. I was on empty, and the gas light had been on for way too long. I had no choice but to pull off at the only station I'd seen in miles. One of those half-dead, a single flickering light, a busted-up ATM inside, and a cashier who looked like he'd been stuck there since the 90s. I pulled up to the pump, left the engine running, and stepped out to swipe my card. That's when I noticed them. A group of guys, 5 or 6 of them, huddled near an old beat-up sedan, parked in the farthest corner of the lot. At first, I wasn't paying attention, just some dudes talking, maybe just hanging out. But then, I heard the click. A sound everybody recognizes, even if they've never held a gun before. The unmistakable sound of a slide racking back. I froze. My gut told me to get back in the car, but for some reason, I just watched. And that's when the fight broke out. It happened so fast. One of the guys swung on another, knocking him against the car. A bottle smashed against the pavement. Somebody screamed. Then, chaos. Fists flying, more bottles breaking. One guy slammed another onto the hood of a car. But I was still stuck on the gun. I saw it in the hands of a muscular, tatted-up guy, blood trickling from his nose. His hand was shaking, and his voice was cracked with anger. I don't know why I did it, but I yelled, "Yo, chill the F out." Bad move. The entire group stopped fighting, and all of them turned toward me. I knew immediately I had messed up. One of the guys took a step forward, his lip busted open, wiping blood off his chin. "Yo, what the F you looking at?" Another one, short, stocky, still breathing hard, eyed me up and down. "You watching us? You a cop?" Then a third one, leaning against the car, grinning, nodded toward the girl in the passenger seat. "Or you checking out my girl?" I hadn't even seen her until that moment. She was sitting stiff, eyes locked forward, face pale, like she wasn't really there. And then, finally, she looked at me. Expressionless, and she said one word. "Run." That was it. I didn't wait for them to say anything else. I jumped back in my car so fast, I barely got the door shut before I slammed it into drive. They ran toward me. I saw the tall one with the gun raise his hand. I don't know if he was aiming or just pointing, but I didn't stay to find out. I peeled out of there, tires screeching, gas pump still unpaid for, but my car was still almost on empty. I drove for miles before I found another station. I was convinced I was being followed. Every pair of headlights in my mirror made my stomach drop. I pulled into another station, a bigger one, well lit, with other cars around. My hands were shaking as I shoved my cart into the pump and put in just enough gas to get away. But even after I left, I didn't go home. I drove around for almost an hour, making random turns, pulling into parking lots, waiting to see if anyone was tailing me. I was too paranoid to go straight home. I kept seeing that girl's face, the way she didn't react to anything happening around her, the way she warned me, like she'd seen this happen before. The next day, I couldn't shake it. I checked the local news. I didn't see anything. I checked social. I didn't see anything there either. Since this happened, I now try to always make sure to get gas during the day, but I've avoided that particular gas station like the plague ever since that night. The voice from the pump. I was running on fumes. It was past midnight, and I had been on the road for hours, heading home after visiting my sister. The highway was empty, just stretches of dark pavement with the occasional set of headlights in the distance. I wasn't even sure where I was when I saw the gas station, one of those 24-hour places off a quiet exit, lit up against the darkness like a dying candle. I pulled in. The place was deserted. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting a dull, yellow glow over the cracked pavement. Inside the store, a bored-looking attendant stood behind the counter, barely acknowledging me as I pulled up to the pump. I got out and swiped my card. The pump beeped, and I grabbed the nozzle. The air was still, almost suffocatingly quiet. No cars, no wind, just the distant hum of the gas station lights. Then I heard it. A whisper, soft, faint, like someone standing just behind me. I froze. I looked over my shoulder. Nothing. I exhaled, shaking it off, probably just the wind. I went back to pumping. Then I heard it again. My name this time. Not shouted, not spoken, whispered, right next to my ear. My breath caught in my throat. I spun around. No one was there. The store was still empty, the attendant inside now staring at his phone, unaware of my growing panic. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. Maybe I was just tired. I needed to get home, get some sleep. I turned back to the pump, trying to shake the unease creeping up my spine. Then, louder this time, "Help me." I yanked my hand away as if the nozzle had burned me. The whisper was coming from the pump. I stood there, frozen, my mind struggling to make sense of it. That's when I noticed the scratches. Deep, erratic claw marks along the side of the pump. My stomach twisted. I reached out, running my fingers over them. The grooves were jagged, uneven, like someone had been clawing at the metal. The whispering turned into screams. A desperate, agonized wail echoing from inside the pump. I staggered back, heart pounding. My body screamed at me to run. I dropped the nozzle and jumped into my car, slamming the door shut. I didn't even care about the gas. I needed to get out of there. As I sped off, I forced myself to take deep breaths, my hands trembling against the wheel. My mind was racing. Had I imagined it? It didn't feel imagined. It felt real. When I got home, I couldn't shake the feeling, that whisper ringing in my ears. I sat in bed, phone in hand, my screen glowing in the darkness. Then, on a morbid impulse, I researched gas station kidnapping, Highway 16, and my blood went cold. The first result was a news article. Woman abducted at 24-hour gas station, last seen on surveillance footage before disappearing. I clicked on it. The article described a violent kidnapping. A woman had stopped to get gas late at night, alone, just like me. Security footage showed a man grabbing her as she tried to fight back. At one point, she had broken free. And in the grainy black and white image, I saw her clutching onto a gas pump, the same pump I had just used. The last place she had been before she was dragged into the woods. Her body was never found. My stomach twisted into knots. I clicked on another article. The police had interviewed the gas station attendant on duty that night. He said he had heard her screaming, but by the time he ran outside, she was gone. All that was left was the sound of scraping metal, like someone had been clawing at the pump. I shut my phone off and stared into the darkness. I could still hear her voice. Help me. The next morning, I told myself it was just a coincidence, just my brain playing tricks on me. But I couldn't stop thinking about those scratches and something else. Before I left the station, as I drove away, I had glanced in my rearview mirror. For just a second, I swore I saw someone standing next to that pump. A woman. She wasn't moving. She was just watching me leave, like she was waiting for the next person to stop for gas.